Hey everyone, it's Zack Beck. While millions of Americans continue to collect unemployment due to the pandemic, there's a separate group of individuals who've actually benefited financially from this situation. The transition to remote work has enabled individuals to spend less money after the pandemic than they did before the pandemic, while still earning the same levels of income. This has led individuals to actually be able to have a more optimistic viewpoint of their retirement possibilities. But the individuals who are unemployed right now are facing a much different reality. As a matter of fact, there was a recent study conducted where it said that nearly 20% of Americans believe the pandemic is going to force them to retire later in life, whereas 15% of millennials in the same study believe the pandemic is actually going to enable them to retire earlier in their life. So there's a big difference between these two groups. So what I want to do in this video is break down in detail the feasibility of individuals being able to retire early in the millennial class, the individuals who are unemployed right now, the challenges they will face to be able to retire even at a normal age, if not later, but most importantly, if individuals do wish to retire earlier, the specific steps they will need to take long-term, factoring in the differences in our economy and how things are going to shift over time for them to be able to achieve that goal and make it become a reality. So let's take our time, dive into the details, and jump into it right now. As previously mentioned, nearly 15% of millennials believe that they are more likely to retire early due to the pandemic. This level of optimism in millennials is actually enabling them to have a better viewpoint than Gen Z or Gen X. For instance, this same study found that millennials are nearly twice as likely to believe they're going to retire earlier in comparison to Gen Z, and they believe they're 3 times more likely to retire early compared to Gen X. And it might be very feasible for this to happen because millennials are digital natives. They've been accustomed to transitioning to this work from home environment, and it's been a pretty seamless transition for them. However, some of the older generation might have been limited in their capacity to benefit from the technological advancements. But what we've also found is these same millennials who transitioned to remote work now are benefiting from the fact that they're conducting the same level of work without having to transport into the office, without having to spend money on necessarily nicer clothes to be able to be dressed in the office. And furthermore, they don't have to spend for nearly as much expensive housing if they live in a large city that's expensive, such as New York, LA, Miami, Seattle, San Diego, or otherwise. So what they're finding is that this is allowing them to expedite their savings rates. And to me, that's a very positive development. I on this channel talk frequently about the importance of not adhering to lifestyle inflation, saving as much of money as possible, investing the difference that we can achieve early retirement. But the big question is this actually reasonable? I believe millennials are very optimistic in this sense because they understand the dynamics of technology as well as the benefits associated with that. However, one thing that hasn't caught up to this exact instance is what the different employers are going to do related to work from home environment. The benefit of working from home obviously enables individuals to get the same level of work done without having the same expenses, and obviously keeps us socially distanced and safe from a health perspective. But one of the downsides of that is that employers don't need to pool their talent just from individuals who live within a specific region. Therefore, those same employers can now hire individuals who live all around the country, if not all around the world. And furthermore, because they're not having to locate them into a more expensive city where their business is located, they might not necessarily need to pay as high of a level of income or as high a level of a salary. So that is actually one thing that hasn't happened yet where we've seen a shift in that regard. But if we see a bigger pool of candidates for various positions that exist out there, and if we see employers being able to spend less for their employees in order to get the same level of work done, we might see that this is actually going to cause salaries to actually decrease over time, which would actually then lower the overall savings rate for the same group of individuals. Now, I'm hoping this doesn't happen because hopefully these employers are going to compensate their employees properly and individuals be valued and worth in that respect. But it's something to factor in if you are a millennial watching this video right now, thinking that this circumstance we're facing right now is going to be the same long term. It might not necessarily be the case. Obviously, the economy is going to shift and grow, and we're going to see differences occur over time. But I believe it's important, if you're factoring in for the long haul, you think about the different dynamics that might occur, such as more competition for your specific position, as well as potentially lower pay for your position if we don't see inflation ticking up that high, and also if you're not required to live in an expensive city to conduct the same job that you were supposed to in the first place. For individuals on the flip side of the coin who've either been unemployed, furloughed, or who are having a difficult time adapting to the technological environment we currently find ourselves in, first and foremost, I just want to offer some empathy to you because I'm very sorry you're dealing with that challenge right now, but there's still hope out there because there are many jobs in the trade sector, there are many jobs currently that exist that don't require that level of technological expertise. So whether that requires you to go and get a new certification, whether that requires you to just look in a different avenue or a different sector of the economy, specifically in the public sector of the economy, there are many jobs out there that exist that will require you just to be able to have some basic level skill where you can go and obtain that level of employment but still pays a living wage. So there are options out there, and we're going to see a gradual return to some semblance of normalcy soon. So it might be that your employer just returns to working in the office and you can go revert back to your normal previous job if you're fortunate enough to get that. But it's one thing you want to make sure you're doing right now during this pandemic, and if you're unemployed or furloughed, that you're doing everything you can to prepare for what is going to happen on the other side of here. And it's hard and difficult for you to think about what retirement might look like if you're just having a difficult time paying your rent, paying your mortgage, putting groceries on the table, and doing everything you can to be able to just survive in this instance. But if you're intentional about what you're doing and strategic about the options that exist out there, what I would strongly recommend is that you do everything you can to prepare yourself now to be able to get into this post-pandemic economy in the strongest position possible, so that way you can actually make money, save money, and be able to retire at a reasonable rate of age, if not even earlier. Now, let's say you are a millennial who wants to retire early and believes this shift in the economy that's happened due to the pandemic is here to last. So one thing I really want to bear in mind for you is the importance of investing, irrespective of what's going to transpire within the economy, whether you're going to be able to work from home, or you're going to have to work in the office, or whatever exists there. What you do with your money is going to be the biggest component of allowing you to reach the goal of early retirement. And it's one thing to save money, but investing your money is really where the growth is at when it comes to being able to have your money work for yourself so you can sustain it long term. For example, our wealth is calculated like this. Wealth equals your income plus your investments minus your lifestyle. So if you're able to have a sizable income and then invest a good amount of that income and not adhere to lifestyle inflation where you're living in the fanciest house, you're buying the fanciest clothes, you're driving the fanciest car, you're doing everything you can to spend more money as you earn more money, that will enable you to broaden the gap between how much you make versus how much you spend. And then if you're investing a majority of that difference into the stock market, that money will then grow over time and compound over time and allow you to actually be able to reach early retirement. I've created numerous videos that talk about this in detail as it relates to how much you need to save by age in order to reach early retirement, as well as where you need to invest your money to reach early retirement. But I'll just give you some basic principles right now that are important to follow. If you're new to the stock market, what I personally believe you should do, and it's what I do, speaking not as a financial advisor, just someone who's very interested in my personal finances and having learned a lot over the last number of years, understanding that I want to share this with people who can then make the same decisions I've made to be able to achieve good, important goals that can actually bring more fulfillment to your life. When it comes to investing, I like to invest in what are called index funds. Now, index funds are basically a broad base of companies that are pooled into one index. For example, there is the Standard & Poor's 500 or the S&P 500, which is an index fund that you can buy from Vanguard or from Fidelity or all these different brokerage groups that exist out there. But when you're investing into an index fund, you're basically broadening and diversifying your investments, so you're not putting all of your hopes, not all of your dreams on one company. This type of level of investment, when you invest in an index fund, yields positive results long term, generally between 5 to 8% on an annual basis when you factor in the last 100 years and you take into consideration reinvesting your dividends as well as inflation. And if you're able to invest into an index fund, that's going to provide you with that steady level of growth as opposed to just setting aside your money and saving it into your savings account. Now, if you're able to save money, you obviously want to set aside a certain amount into your bank account so that we have an emergency fund established of 3 to 6 months of your living expenses, and then just some cash on hand to be able to pay for things on an ongoing basis. But you want to make sure that the majority of your money then goes and gets invested so it can grow over time, because you're not going to be able to reach early retirement simply by saving your money. You have to save that money and put the money to work. And the best and most effective way you can do so, where it requires little understanding of the stock market and doesn't require you to be having to monitor the stock market every day, is to go ahead and invest into an index fund. Personally, I like utilizing robo-advisors to do this. It's really the most foolproof and intuitive way to do so. I really like utilizing Wealthfront. That's where I have most of my money set aside when it comes to investing into index funds or exchange traded funds. And by doing so, I can just set automatic withdrawals taken out of my savings account, put directly into my Wealthfront account, and then that just goes into the stock market and invest long term. That's if you're doing it through just a simple brokerage account. Now, if you have the benefit of being able to open up a 401k through your employer, that's actually a great step to take because you can still invest into index funds, but then your employer might actually match some of your contributions. But there are also tax benefits associated with that as well. You can actually invest into your 401k, and then that money is going to grow and you're going to pay taxes on it after the age of 59 and a half when you withdraw it. But if you're looking to, maybe retire earlier than that, you won't be able to touch that money before the age of 59 and a half. I still believe you have a multi-pronged approach when it comes to this. You want to have at least a brokerage account and you want to have a 401k, but just bear in mind there are differences between those. Whereas a brokerage account, basically that's liquid money. You can touch it and do whatever you want with it at any time, but there are tax implications associated with it. Now, a Roth IRA, on the other hand, you can open that. It doesn't require you to be having it through your employer. You could open that through Wealthfront or Fidelity or Vanguard or any of these other companies that exist out there. And with a Roth IRA, similarly, it's a tax benefited account, but with this, you invest into the stock market through a Roth IRA, and then by the time you reach the age of 59 and a half, you can take that money out tax-free. Now, I made an entirely different video about the Roth IRA specifically, about how you can become a tax-free millionaire. I'll put a link in the description for you to check that out, but it's a very effective tool to utilize when it comes to getting into the investments right now. But once again, bear in mind that is a long-term investment. It's not a short-term investment. And really all of our investing strategies should be thinking about the long-term. What is the yield going to be to enable you to reach early retirement? Another tool I like to utilize is Acorns. Now, Acorns is an effective app that you can put on your phone and link to your checking account, but basically what it is when you go and shop in various stores or you purchase something online, what it will do is it'll take the difference between how much the product costs. Let's say it costs $2.50, so you pay $2.50 for that cup of coffee. It will then round it up to $3, the remaining difference, and then invest that 50 cents into the stock market. It's such a foolproof, easy, automated way to get some of your savings going right now. But if you do that, it really enables you to kind of supercharge your investments, because not only is that money getting saved like if you were putting in your savings account, once again, it's going into a group of index funds and that money is going to grow over time. One of the features I really like on Acorns is you can multiply that as well. So what I do is I 10x my investment. So every time that I buy something and that difference gets invested, then Acorns multiplies that by 10 and then invests it. So if I buy a cup of coffee for $2.50, it rounds up the remaining 50 cents and then it multiplies that by 10. So I'm actually investing $5 in the stock market by buying a $2.50 cup of coffee. Now, this is just an effective tool you can utilize. I really enjoy it. It's not the primary savings vehicle, nor is it the primary investment vehicle. It's just a neat little feature you can try out. I'll put a link in the description for you to check it out if you want to go ahead and log in and actually open up an account. I think it's one of the easiest ways you can get started on saving. But you really want to have a broader automated saving strategy when it comes to getting into your finances. And this can be done by setting it up easily on your bank. Most bank accounts now can do online features where you can have automatic withdrawals. Make sure your money comes out of your checking account, goes into your Roth IRA, goes into your brokerage account, and then you set aside a set amount of money into your savings account. And think about saving and investment in terms of percentages instead of in terms of dollars, because over time, hopefully you're going to earn more money as you proceed throughout your career. And you don't just want to have a set amount of money that you're going to be saving and investing, you want to have set percentages. And the higher your percentage that you're able to save and invest right now, the quicker you're going to be able to reach retirement. Once again, I created a video specifically about this. I'll put a link in the description for you to check that out, but that should encourage you to be able to expedite your savings rate, because the more that you can do that, the more effective it's going to be for you in the short term, but most importantly for the long term, you'll reap significant rewards. I know I talk a lot about how you should save and invest your money, but also it's important for us to understand how we should be spending our money, because there are two sides of this coin. Everything that we do in our life, we need to do with balance and moderation so that we can still live in the moment and appreciate our lives as a whole. We don't just want to be so fixated on the future that we don't enable ourselves to live in the present by enjoying our relationships, enjoying the beautiful things that exist in our society, enjoying nice meals, going traveling, things like that. So I don't want to discourage you from living in the present, because I believe that is important, but you can be very strategic in how you do so in order to still achieve your long-term goals by enjoying the things in the present. So what I would encourage you to do is to stop spending money on things that do not matter to you. Everyone is different, has a different perspective. There are certain things that matter a lot to individuals that don't matter to myself at all. You might not be as interested in, what kind of clothing you wear, the shoes you wear, the car you drive, the house you live in, etc. So if it's something that doesn't really bring value or worth to your life, make sure you can cut back your expenses. My wife and I did this a little while ago where we just kind of reassessed our life as a whole. We were spending money on a number of different things and we realized, does this actually bring value to our life? And if it didn't, we would just say, let's cut that out. And it's one thing that I find is very helpful is this gentleman by the name of Ramit Sethi, and he says the following. He says, spend extravagantly on the things that you love, but cut mercilessly on the things that you don't. And that's kind of the strategy I like to employ. Instead of just spending money on a variety of mediocre things in our lives, I'll spend money on things that really do matter in our lives and then cut back in the areas that don't. So try and adopt that similar type of mindset because you want to look at the big picture of what the bottom line is going to be. And if you're spending a little bit on various things that aren't really bringing you value, then try and find ways to cut those out. So it's just something as a food for thought as you're considering how you can reach early retirement if that's a goal for yourself right now. I know previously I mentioned the importance of investing in index funds. I also want to mention you can go ahead and invest into stocks, just individual companies themselves. This requires a bit more expertise, a bit more studying required to go and do so, but it could yield longer term results that might compound and grow a little more aggressively than even an index fund, but that level of volatility is significant. There's a risk associated anytime when you go into the stock market, whether it's an index fund or an individual stock, but if you go through the process of actually picking out a set company and investing aggressively into that, you might reap some beneficial rewards. For example, Tesla has been off the charts this last year. It's been growing exponentially. There are people who are just investing in Tesla and they've been gaining a lot of money over the last couple of months, if not the last couple of years. But when you have all of your money invested into one company, you're on the ups and downs with that as well, because then if that company goes bankrupt, if they have some sort of issue with the SEC or anything like that, then your money is tied up in that. So that's personally why I like to invest in a broad base of companies. But if you want to have some additional investments going into the stock market and individual companies that you believe in and that you actually understand and you really want to stand behind them, that's something you could consider and do that. Robinhood is a very effective application that you can utilize to do so. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check that out, and you actually get a free stock if you sign up. So feel free to use that link down below. Furthermore, WeBull is another application that you can use to go and invest individually into the stock market. You can get 2 free stocks if you actually invest on the trading platform. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check that out as well. Once again, you just need to do what works best for yourself, but as long as you're putting your money to work and you're not taking your money out of the market immediately, you're just going to be in it for the long haul, steadily putting your money into the market, that is going to be a beneficial outcome for you long term. So I'm just hopeful that you'll take the time to do so. Make sure you research and do everything you can necessary to spend your money wisely when it comes to this. And once again, I'm not a financial advisor, just someone who's gone through this process quite a bit myself. I just hope that it can be helpful for you. With all that being said, I'd like to thank you for watching the video today. If you wouldn't mind, please like the video. That would really help the channel out for the YouTube algorithm, help push this video to other people who might need to hear it. In addition, if you have any questions, please comment down below. I'd love to interact with you, get to know you, answer any questions on your behalf, and do any research on your behalf. Furthermore, if you wouldn't mind, please subscribe to the channel. That would mean a lot to myself personally, as I do everything I can to create positive content that makes an impact in your life by encouraging you and myself to lead lives of meaning and purpose, all while maintaining balance and moderation. And if you do subscribe to the channel, please tap the notification bell. That will notify you every time I post a video, which I do on a weekly basis. Once again, I'd like to thank you for watching the video today. I hope you have a wonderful remainder of your day. Talk to you next time.